So you've heard some flashlights called throwers, right? And maybe you thought it was some form of new tactical flashlight you could just hurl at an opponent, or mouse if you feel threatened. But maybe you already know what a thrower is, and the last thing you need is some dope on YouTube telling you crap you already know. Sorry, man. So the T20 is the new thrower from Acebeam, or might be the name of a new shitty Terminator sequel. I'm not sure what they're up to right now. In order to make the T20 the ultimate thrower, Acebeam gave it a big 61mm wide by 50mm deep reflector and used a new LED from Cree called imaginatively the XPL High Intensity. An XPL High Intensity differs from a regular XPL because it doesn't have a rounded clear dome and allows more directional focusing of the light, which beats the old way of improving throw by making a deal with Satan or hiring Al Pacino. Cree says the XPL High Intensity produces twice the candela of the standard version. I hope I'm saying the word candela right. Candela is the measurement used to calculate the throw of a flashlight and not the fancier European way of just saying the word candle. This emitter-reflector combo means it can outthrow lights with over twice the output like the K40M, which I reviewed a while back, and is also a roundabout way of saying, hey, that video needs more views, man. Okay, hold on. You're probably wondering why I haven't gone over your favorite part, the anodization and the flashlight swag. Well, first, I really don't appreciate the sarcasm, and second, since you asked, in the box you get a light with extension tube, a manual and warranty card for people who get excited about documentation, a spare tail cap rubber, a pair of O-rings, and a real cool lanyard to add to your growing collection in the junk drawer. Oh, and the nylon holster. What about the light itself? It has Type 3 anodization that covers aircraft-grade aluminum, which is a step above K-grade aluminum, and 2 above beer can-grade aluminum, I think. A tempered glass lens with an anti-reflective coating, some tactical knurling on the extension tube, because it's a flashlight and tactability is a word associated with all flashlights nowadays, or just a word I made up. The light is powered off of 1 or 2 18650 batteries or 18650 batteries by use of an included extension tube. If you're using it with one cell, protected or flat top cells work fine. If you're using it with the extension tube, make sure you use longer button tops or protected cells. Acebeam says they use two 2600 mAh Samsung batteries for all their figures and to use protected cells for safety. The light itself does not have low voltage protection, but instead the light blinks when you need to change the battery. My testing found that when using 2 batteries, it began to blink at about 57 minutes in at 6.8 volts, with one battery at 3.35 volts and the other at 3.45 volts. On one cell, it blinked for the first time at 58 minutes with a cell voltage of 3.25 volts. Okay, since this isn't a flashlight commercial, now I'll do some testing. First are the output levels of the 5 non-blinking modes. On the screen you'll see Acebeam's output figures and my own figures for 1 and 2 cells. I use Sanyo 2600 mAh UR 18650F batteries for testing, and although I tried higher drain batteries, I found they didn't offer much difference in overall output. I use the FL1 standard for measuring flashlights with my DIY measuring device. First is Firefly. Then is Low. Then is Medium. Then is High. And then there's Turbo. Turbo has a 5-minute timed step down. You can reset the timer by turning the light off and then turning it back on. I tried yelling at it, but that didn't really seem to work. I've included that step down figure here. Using one cell doesn't appear to engage the step down, but that's probably because it doesn't run at full brightness with one cell. Okay, how about that user interface? I already own the K40M and love the interface, and you really needed to know that, right? While this UI is a bit different, it's just as simple to use. You have a total of 3 buttons. The main power on the tail cap operates on and off. Then the 2 buttons up front operate the modes. The square one closest to the lens operates a single fast flashing strobe mode for people or situations that are into those sorts of things. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Strobe only is activated if you hold the button down, When you release it, it goes back to whatever mode you were on before. Sorry, strobe fans. Then there's the mode switching button, which is the round one. It scrolls from Firefly to Turbo by pressing it, and then back again. It has mode memory, so when you turn it on and off, it comes on in the last mode you had it on. Maybe you're a bit disappointed that it didn't have any other strobes like SOS. Never fear, the T20 offers DIY strobe. You can make up your own strobes by giving the tail cap 3/4 presses as fast or as slow as you want while it's off. Alright, so here's the boring runtime section. Acebeam used 2 cells for their testing. I tried 1 or 2 cells because I figured someone on YouTube would probably ask me. And plus, who doesn't like seeing 4 time-lapse videos of a light dim instead of 2? And you're like, normal people, bro. Okay, turbo on 2 cells ran for about an hour. It starts at 1445 lumens, and at 30 seconds you get my FL1 tested rating at 1383.2 lumens. Good thing I put the 0.2 in, right? At 5 minutes, its hard steps down to 1073 lumens. It stays fairly constant until the low voltage flash starts at about 57 minutes. My video makes the flash look fast, but it's actually slow, more like doomp, doomp, doomp. Turbo on 1 cell doesn't have a hard step down, but starts out lower at 1060 lumens. It runs fairly constantly for nearly an hour before the blinking begins. Remember, the light will not shut off, so basically it runs for hours and hours in a low power state, draining your batteries. Make sure you use protected cells. If you're an idiot like me, I actually got cells down to 1.5 volts, which is pretty dangerous. Those, of course, were not protected cells, so please don't worry that your cells will drain that low if you use protected. Okay, high on 2 cells runs fairly constantly at regulation for close to 2 hours before the blinking starts. And then nothing interesting happens for the rest of the runtime. But I didn't have to tell you that. High on 1 cell starts dimming a little over an hour in before the blinking begins. I let it run for a while before shutting it off. I thought about telling a joke here to make it worth watching, but I haven't heard any new ones lately. Okay, how about some beam shots with other flashlights I have that are considered throwers? I set my camera to manual and all the lights to their maximum output because flashlight science, bro. So I decided to do some beam shots on the creepy shed, like all my videos, and then the standard non-creepy trees behind my shed to give it a little more distance in the test. So yeah, sorry, this crap goes on for like another 20 seconds before I get to the next part. Remember, the figures you see on the screen are my tested figures. They should be used as a relative guide only and not the definitive guide. Unless the subliminal messages hidden in my video are working, and you're starting to believe everything I say. And in that case, you mind grabbing me a beer? Then I risk life and limb, or maybe just a jerk neighbor calling the cops because some idiot's standing in the center of the road, shining a flashlight on some shit. But in the name of flashlight science, I did a longer throw test where the T20 beat every other flashlight, including the much bigger and brighter K40M. This flashlight has an awesome throw distance. The building way down there is about 202 meters, which is about 662 feet or 222 yards for people who don't like entering conversion values into Google. Okay, how about some other things, like the new section I call hot flashlight action. Well, I did some temperature tests on turbo with 2 cells and let it run for an hour. By the way, you'll just have to believe me when I said I did this test and sit through my hastily shot reenactment of this. Pretend like you see these numbers on the thermometer. You know, just like you pretended to watch or like this entire video. I found that at its hottest, it got to 150 Fahrenheit, which is kind of hot, in the section of the flashlight closest to the emitter. The handle got to about 128 Fahrenheit. With 1 cell, it's way more comfortable to hold and never got hotter than 120 F or Fahrenheit in the hottest section of the flashlight. That's right, the hottest section of the flashlight, which is near the emitter, right? The light is rated water resistant to IPX8 standards, so feel free to use it in the rain or drop it in pools of shallow water because you're bored. I used it in light drizzle throughout this video and it worked fine. Alright, so you ready to see me break the light? Cool. The T20 is shock resistant to 1.2 meters as advertised by Acebeam. I decided to drop it head height onto the old wood floor I don't know, that's like over 2 meters if I'm 6 foot, right? I'm not very good at math. So this is not recommended by the manufacturer. 1 drop and it's fine. 2 drops, well, and it shuts off. Turns out the emitter was separated during the 2nd drop. A quick emitter swap would solve this problem, but I don't have the time right now. I have dropped this light a few times less than a meter from the ground and it survived fine. Those were all accidents, of course. But I wanted to push the limit. It's actually the first light I've ever broken this way. Anyway, good thing I had 95% of the video shot. Now here are some basic dimensions and weight. I'm going to weigh the light without batteries, with and without the extension. I hope that was confusing. And here it is next to the K40M for a size comparison. The reflector on the T20 is only a hair smaller, although the extra aluminum on the beefier K40M makes it appear a bit bigger, but not actually taste better. And unless you do magic, the T20 will not tail stand, even if you ask it really nicely. It has a simple, logical user interface that I have no problems with, other than it made a joke about my mother. The mode spacing is good, and I'd be picky if I said it could use a 30 lumen mode, huh? So I won't say that. The incredible hotspot of this light means it fares better as a light if you need to pinpoint lights at far distances. It also works fine in enclosed areas too if you use the lower modes because of the large, dimmer spill light. So here's some video of me walking around. Indoors. You're like, oh wow, more video of you walking around. The addition of the Firefly mode is always welcome when you don't need a lot of light, plus I'd complain if it wasn't there. So what about that tint? I measured it with my iPhone app to be between 3700 and 3800 Kelvin. I would describe the tint as golden rather than yellow, although there's a fine line. If you couldn't tell by this long ass video, it's a pretty cool light. If you need to illuminate faraway objects, the T20 absolutely rules. According to data provided by manufacturers, it seems this light is the winner for absolute throw when compared to the Armitech Barracuda and the Olight Jovalot, I don't know, M3XS UT. Not to be confused with the M3XS UTI, which is more painful and may require medication to clear up. Both are similar flashlights using the same emitter. My testing confirms that the output levels provided by Acebeam and the specs are pretty close to what Acebeam says. Okay, so that about wraps it up. This is my first video since hitting 1,000 subscribers. It took a little longer than usual, so sorry. Thanks to all the new people and all the OG subscribers that, have felt sorry for me from the beginning. I have more stuff coming up. Also look for me on Tech Tool Supplies YouTube channel, where I also do videos sort of like this, but not really sort of like this. My reviews often take a bit longer to complete over a standard tabletop review, so as long as you're patient, I can promise you reviews just like this. Hey man, it's quality over quantity. Plus, there's plenty of reviews of gear I've done this year, if you want to watch those in the meantime. Stuff all still available to buy, or, not buy. Thanks again, and watch out for my 2 budget fixed blade knife reviews coming very soon, and a review of a high quality zooming light. Yes, there are those out there. Alright, see you soon.